Buying a farm seemed like such a great idea after the death of my wife. I had the money and I hated my job, so it seemed perfect. The farm I chose wasn't too big, enough space to have a regular rotation of crops and maybe a few animals. The farm also came with a house. It was quaint and rustic, a drastic departure from my modern London apartment. So I moved in, my little farm, in the middle of nowhere. The first few days weren't too bad, decent weather, and the jobs on the farm didn't seem too difficult. However, after the first couple of days, it seemed like the heavens opened to torrential downpour, constant rain. I went out and attempted to do my jobs, but the rain made the muddy, messy earth almost impossible to stand in. I made a few attempts to do my usual tasks, but after some falls into the mud, I gave up. I returned to my farmhouse. My clothes were soaking wet and covered in a filthy layer of mud. I threw my jacket off and stepped out of my once green Wellington boots. I walked over to the log fire and tried to start it. My tired, slightly pissed off mind struggled for a moment before the orange flame flickered into existence. I crashed onto my sofa. The warmth of the fire seemed to make every muscle in my body relax at once. With the combination of the early morning and the warmth of the fire, I soon fell into a deep sleep. I woke many hours later. I checked my watch. It was the evening and the rain was still hammering against the thin windows of the old farmhouse. I stumbled over to the kitchen and poured a large bottle of scotch from the cupboard. I poured a large glass and took a swirl. I stared out the window. Through the rain, I seemed to see an old police box. Now, to some people, this isn't too strange, but I could have sworn I'd never seen it there before. There was a knock at the door. I placed my glass of scotch on the kitchen counter and went to answer. At the door, there was an older man, wearing a trench coat and a colourful shirt. He was holding a bizarre technological contraption, which looked like he built it himself out of the TV remote.
Hello, I'm the doctor.
He said, tinkering with the device in his hand.
Have you noticed anything strange around here lately?
What? No, I said, confused, unsure at what this man really wanted. He didn't respond. Instead, he just left quickly. I went back to my scotch and continued to drink. It was later that night. I slumped on the sofa, having almost finished my glass of scotch. Then I saw it out of the corner of my eye, a disturbance in the wheat field. I stood up and went to investigate. I peered through the window. It seemed like I could hear distant metallic stomping. Reluctantly got back into my Wellington boots and went out to investigate. I scanned my torch across the field, focusing on the area of disturbance. I approached the wheat field, the metallic stomping getting louder and louder. I felt an aggressive sense of anxiety and fear as I approached the disturbance. I finally arrived in the front of the wheat. I reached out and moved some wheat across, revealing what may have been the worst sight I've ever seen in my life. A man made of almost entirely metal, a cold, emotionless human shape, stood in front of me. The creature looked rusted and scratched up, like it had been abandoned in someone's shed.
You will be like us,
the creature said in a strange metallic dirge. I stared. I started to back away. I tripped on something lying on the ground and I dropped to the earth with a thud. I clumsily crawled backwards before finally getting up and running back to the farmhouse. I locked myself back inside, then I paced around panicking. What was it? Where did it come from? It's a prank. It must be a prank, I remember saying out loud. I looked out of the window. The strange rusty robot was stomping towards the house. I continued to panic. The sense of fear from earlier had by this point risen inside of me to a point of terror. Suddenly a memory had hit me. When I first bought the house, I remember finding a shotgun left behind by the previous owner. I ran upstairs, tearing through the cupboards, searching for the relic. Then finally in the back of the wardrobe, I found the long black weapon. I cracked it open, revealing the empty chambers. Next to the weapon, I found a box of shells for the shotgun. There were fewer left in the box, only 3. I loaded the weapon and headed back downstairs to face the man of metal. I returned downstairs and opened the window. I have a weapon now, and if this is a prank, then stop. I'm not in the fucking mood, I shouted at the machine. It kept walking. I pointed the weapon out of the window. I breathed in and fired. I looked over. My first shot had completely missed, blowing a chunk out of a nearby tree. What unnerved me was how unfazed the mechanical man was. At this point, it dawned on me. This was no prank. I aimed the shotgun back at the metallic man and pulled the trigger. The shot from the weapon scattered the start, hitting the robotic creature. The shot tore even more small holes into the bodywork of the metal man. The machine finally stomped to the window. The shot from the shotgun did nothing to this pursuer. It punched its arm through the window and then walked through the wall, smashing a hole through the brick wall of the old farmhouse, once again unfazed by these unhuman actions.
You shall be upgraded.
The strange creature said. I fell to the ground, almost knowing what was coming. This was going to be my death. And suddenly, as if someone had heard my troubles, the doctor, the man from earlier, bursting through my door, strangely wielding a children's slingshot. The doctor drew back and shot a shard of what looked like gold into the metallic man. The cyborg started to grab at its chest almost as if it was suffocating. What looked like a long, excruciating death, the metallic man crashed down to the ground. What the hell was that? I said through terror.
It's called a Cyberman.
The doctor said, slowly pacing towards the metallic corpse. Is it dead? I asked, unsure if I was safe.
Yes, it's quite dead.
The doctor responded, crouching down to the Cyberman and retrieving a strange device from his jacket pocket. This device had an entirely black handle and a blue crystal pointing out at the top, almost like a strange penlight. The doctor then started to hover this device over the face of the Cyberman as it buzzed and beeped. What is that? I asked curiously.
You are full of questions, aren't you? It's a sonic screwdriver.
The doctor humorously responded. Suddenly, a loud metallic clunks sound emitted from the face of the Cyberman. The doctor reached down and lifted the faceplate. What I saw under that face mask would haunt me for the rest of my life. The face was that of a rotting corpse riddled with cybernetics. Oh God, I said, trying not to puke.
Sorry you had to see that.
The doctor said with an air of remorse, floating through his voice. The doctor stood up.
Well, I've got to get going.
The doctor said, standing up. Wait, what do you want me to do with the body? I asked with an air of panic in my voice.
Just bury it. You clearly have enough space anyway.
The doctor said, gesturing to my farm field. The doctor walked out of my farmhouse, then into the police box. I watched with amazement as the police box seemed to slowly fade out of reality. That night I couldn't bear the thought of touching the Cyberman, so I decided to get drunk and try to sleep. As I slept, I had some bizarre nightmares, visions of men of metal trying to convert me. As I write this, I have not yet buried the body of the Cyberman. Even looking at the corpse still terrifies me. After that day, my perception of the universe has been flipped. But what always sticks in my mind is, who was that doctor? And what was his strange police box?
Before this video ends, I'd like to give a little shout out to some people who helped with the production of the video. Special thanks to Eddie Davis, who kindly narrated the video, and Ashton Downing, who kindly played the Doctor. Also, I'd like to thank Salem Sounds for the intro theme and Delta FX for the opening title vortex. There are links to everyone's work in the description below.
Subscribe if you enjoyed and want to see more content in future.